With first deliveries of the 2020 Corvette C8 to their owners just around the corner, we're beginning to get more and more photos of built customer cars. But probably one of my favorite photos was just uploaded this past week by a forum user that shows a perfect side-by-side comparison of the Corvette C8 versus its predecessor, the Corvette C7. While the C8 will be wildly successful, we cannot forget the huge impact the C7 had on the Corvette brand. And honestly, the C7 was the perfect send-off for the last of the front-engine based Corvettes. So let's jump into checking out the photos as well as breaking down the differences between the two cars. The first photo we have here is a front view of the cars with a bit of the side profile. The design styling is certainly different from the front fascia, but less the air intake on the side, you can still see some resemblances of the two cars. It is crazy, but from this angle, I have a hard time distinguishing the fact that the hood length for the C7 is much more than that of the C8. Perspective can certainly be misleading. The mirrors seem to be the only giveaway of proportions as they sit much further up on the car. Regardless, you still get the long hood lines that flow over to the C8, and I really like that touch. In terms of length, the C8 comes in as the longer car, roughly having a length of 183 inches, with the C7 coming in at just under 177 inches. Moving on, the C8 Corvette measures 76 inches wide, a full 2 inches wider than the C7, and after seeing the car in person, I feel you can really see those 2 inches due to the large air vents on each side of the car, and that certainly gives the car a wider presence. The next photo we can check out gives us a side profile of the two cars while at an angle. Obviously from this angle you can clearly see the change in layout, but what really sticks out to me is the aggressive front of the Corvette C8, along with the completely new side profile design due to the side air intakes. I personally have always loved the look of the C7. I think its design is fantastic, but while looking at this photo along with the next photo, I personally like the look of the mid-engine build better. And again, this is just my opinion. There's really no right or wrong here. There will be people who disagree with me and people who agree with me, and that's completely okay. Everyone is entitled to what they like. I'm just stating my personal opinion. I've really always been drawn to the dimensions of a car that has a mid-engine build out, and as I look at this perfect side by side, I'm really happy with my choice of picking the C8. There is one thing, however, that I am not liking, and that is the wheels. I honestly do not know who was in charge of wheel design, but I'm halfway sick that I had to pay $995 for those wheels that you see in the picture. Most of my subscribers that follow me know that one of my very first orders of business is to get those terrible wheels off of my Corvette C8 and something aftermarket onto it. Continuing from there, we have a couple more views of the cars from elevated front view positions. In this picture, both cars just look incredible. The front of the C8 does look wider here, and this may explain why in person I feel that the car looks wider. I really do think a lot of that has to do with the side air intakes, but the front of the car could be another reason. In addition, you can see that the headlight design has changed in a fairly dramatic way. The more aggressive styling of the C8 headlights seem to help match the front of the car. The last pictures we have are of the rear of the cars, and these are the photos I looked forward to the most. Since the car was unveiled, my biggest worry has been the rear of the C8 looking off in some way. It was just too boxy and there was a lot going on with the vents in the rear fascia. But after seeing the car in person, I feel the pictures don't quite do the C8 justice. There's a much more rounded look to the rear that helps offset that boxy look that I was initially worried about. I had also been worried about that Z51 spoiler, and while I wasn't super impressed, it wasn't quite as tacky as I originally thought. These photos were huge for me though, as I had never seen a photo that allowed me to see the rear of the two generations so easily together. I feel the photos you are seeing now compared to the second one I will show you explains what I'm trying to say about certain angles not showing the full story. This photo is elevated and you can immediately see the more rounded look of the C8's rear end, including the C7. The photo provides an angle that gives us more depth. If we switch to the lower view, you can see what I'm talking about. The cars look much flatter in the back as it doesn't highlight the depth in the back of the cars that they have. So for the most part, I'm really pleased with how this car has turned out, even in the rear. But I do have to nitpick, it's with the spoiler and probably the exhaust tips. I've loved the quad exhaust layout of Corvettes going all the way back to the C5, and I'm a bit bummed that they changed this go around. I am sure there's a reason for it past the level of just aesthetics, but I do wish they had continued with that old layout. So there you have it, a handful of photos that give you optimal looks at comparing the C7 to the C8 Corvette. From a performance aspect, you have fairly similar build-outs for the two cars. The C7 comes in at 455 horsepower base and 460 pound-feet of torque. The C8 notches it up just a bit at 490 horsepower base and 470 pound-feet of torque. But with the help of a new weight distribution and a brand new dual clutch transmission, the C8 can rocket from 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. That's almost a full second quicker than the C7. At the quarter mile, the C8 comes in at 11.1 seconds, while the C7 trails at 11.6. So once the cars do get going, they become much more evenly matched. Also, both cars can be ordered with magnetic ride control system. From a tech perspective, the C8 certainly wins here, but really that's no surprise. The car has been completely reworked and is built around GM's new technology. From full digital displays to the upgraded PDR, the C8 takes the cake in this department. Nevertheless, the C7 is not a bad place to be. GM really upped their game for the C7's interior, and after owning my C6, my biggest gripe was certainly the interior. The test drives I took in the C7 made the upgrade GM made in interior readily apparent. So regardless of what you choose, you will walk away with an interior that you're proud of. The final comparison we really have is price, and boy is this a big one. I can safely say that you will be paying full price for a very long time on a Corvette C8, which is $60,000 base price. A mid-option C8 is going to run you well into the mid-70s, and it's even crazier is that there are people paying over MSRP for theirs, which is hard to even think about. Yes, you get a top-of-the-line brand new Corvette, but you have to look at the flip side of this equation. You can now get a nicely optioned C7 that's in good condition, priced in the mid-30s. Honestly, from a deal perspective, that's as good as it gets. C7s really have become bargains in the used car market, and so when making a choice on which to get, I really believe pricing makes it a much harder choice. Nevertheless, that comes down to each buyer's wants, but I hope that this video helped you make your choice a bit easier, or at least give you a great perspective on which of the two cars to get. If you enjoyed today's video, think about hitting that like button. It helps support my channel more than I can express. Also, think about subscribing so you can see me take delivery of my Corvette C8 along with all of the cool projects I have in store. Thank you all again so much for checking out the video. You all take care, and as always, we'll see you next video.